Sorry for being late. I'll go ahead and call this special emergency meeting to order. Dan, you want to explain why we're here?
Yes, sir. Everybody's aware of Tropical Storm Cindy. The governor of the state's declared the state of emergency in the state in reference to that storm. The storm came by to the west of us and has damaged some of our city property. Okay. We need to, according to state law, to move expeditiously. City Council has to declare a state of emergency in the city, which will cancel out our need to advertise for bids to do this emergency repair. And we will still get informal bids, and then we will evaluate and recommend to you an award. Call a second special session real quick. You guys award, and we move forward. And we can then do the repairs without having to spend 3 weeks out there advertising and all the other stuff that goes along with it.
Okay.
It's expeditious to the fact. Now, Lance can better explain the physical ailment at the seawall next to the pier.
Okay.
But we're going through the correct motions, and if this proceeds, governor's declared an emergency. We're declaring an emergency. If the president so desires, if it does more damage, or if they look at what we got and others have, and they say, "Whoa." President declares an emergency and FEMA possibly funding is involved, we will have gone through the right steps to apply for that funding.
Okay. Thank you, Dan. Lance, you want to explain to us the seawall?
We have, I call it the oval at the Rose Garden. Y'all excuse the way I look, but I've been soaking wet and dry 10 times a day. But, on the north side where it ties back into the beach area, that seawall goes out and makes the oval and you get to pier. From there, I'd say 3/4 of the way to the pier or 2/3 of the way to the pier, the tiebacks have failed on that seawall. The seawall was a precast seawall. I haven't got the as-built, so the print from the original seawall, I'm still working on it. So it being precast, it came in preformed pieces, and they set the concrete there and poured a cap on top of it. And, of course, they tied that back to whether it's a header, what it may be back there, I don't know. It's tied with an 1¼ cold rolled steel rod. They're broke at the seawall. The seawall moved, I guessed them at 2.5 to 3 inches last night. Of course, going outward. We've got some ideas on how to slow it, to stop it. Just stop it. It would be a temporary fix with y'all going forward with a plan to permanently fix it later on. I've been in several conference calls with different engineers, guys that was involved in the one at Lake Pontchartrain after Katrina. And they've actually got a better idea than I do. So, and it's going to be cheaper, and it'll be quicker. The question being to y'all is we're trying to shoot for getting this back. Just stall it, fix it, make it where it won't move, get it back in play for the 4th of July festivities, and get our concrete put back down there, and everything will roll on. The show will roll on. We won't have to interrupt that, but everything's going to have to move with speed. And then we'll make plans to go forward to repair it permanently. This is just a temporary deal, to keep it from falling on over or worsening.
Let me add something to that.
Go ahead. No, you're fine.
The temporariness of this is the emergency, okay? FEMA does not allow you to do permanent repairs to fix emergencies. We are stopping the emergency situation. That's what you do temporarily. You can do whatever it takes to stop it from endangering humans or your facility. So that's why he's using the word temporary, because that's what it is. All right, that's quick and up front. That's why we have to do this. The permanent is entirely another animal. Okay?
Guys, y'all got any questions for Lance?
No question.
All right.
I do.
Yeah.
Not for Lance, actually for Dan. Does the city, in talking about with the FEMA, that has to be done through federal emergency status?
Yes, sir.
Does this office ask somebody to come down to declare it that so, or how does that?
The president will have to declare the storm event an emergency, and that the governor has already declared, and then they will deal with the state, and we will deal with the governor. The money flows to the state and then flows downstream to us. Okay.
Right. I'm just asking.
Remember.
Who notifies the president? He might want to look at this with all the many issues he has on his plate at the particular moment.
Imagine the governor.
Well, I'm sure he's well aware of Tropical Storm Cindy, but I guess you could appeal to the governor to make that if he hasn't done so, she hasn't done so already.
Right.
But I'm pretty sure he's getting phone calls on this stuff.
Okay. No problem.
That's the
probably
procedure. You know, he's got to declare. The governor just took a preemptive step and declared. We're taking a step in declaring so that if and when they do, we are all set up, and we have to address these issues. And before we can address them, we have to declare. The governor's doing the same thing.
Right.
It's just formalities.
Has to make sure that there's nothing the city needs to do in order to get the federal side of it to be looking. We've done everything we're supposed to do to get this rolling.
And they will not pay for any contractors' work on the issue before you declare it an emergency.
Do what now?
The feds, if it went to the feds, you know, if they get involved, they will not pay for any work before you declare it an emergency.
Correct.
So that's why we're here.
I'm with you.
Is that it?
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dan.
Oh, is that it?
Yeah, that's it.
Need to read
Thank you.
All right. All right, well, we'll go ahead and read this resolution. Whereas Governor Kay Ivey declared a state of emergency exists in the state of Alabama effective as of 10 Central Standard Time on Tuesday, June 20th, 2017, which was associated with Tropical Storm Cindy. And whereas on June 22nd, 2017, a new storm-related damage to the seawall at Fairhope Municipal Pier was discovered due to rain and wave action on the seawall structure. And whereas there is a need for the city to enter into various public works contracts to effect the repair of this critical public park area and to provide adequately for the health, safety, and convenience of the public without delay. And whereas the City Council, due to the emergency circumstances requiring immediate action to avoid further damage to property, the seawall at the Fairhope Municipal Pier is desirous on declaring the June 22nd, 2017 new storm-related damage to the above referenced seawall an emergency pursuant to Code of Alabama 1975, Section 39-2-2E, so that immediate repairs may be contracted to avoid additional damages to the seawall. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the governing body of the City of Fairhope, Alabama, while in special called session on June 22nd, 2017 as follows. The City Council of the City of Fairhope hereby officially declares an emergency as a result of the June 22nd, 2017 new storm-related damage to the seawall at the Fairhope Municipal Pier, an emergency pursuant to Code of Alabama 1975, Section 39-2-2E, and approves soliciting informal bids for repairs. So I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Hang on, before we get a second on that, I think we need to insert temporary before repairs at that last line.
So we'll go back and I'll just read that last.
Does the fact that it's emergency insinuate that it's temporary, Dan?
It does, but if you do not insert temporary, when we get to the point of the permanent repairs, you will have already approved it by not specifying one or the other. So I would keep it general so that, because permanent repairs are to follow. And if you're doing this, you would have to do another one to do the permanent repairs and declare. So I would just keep it general for this.
But I thought you said earlier, by saying it was temporary, we didn't have to put it out for public bid. You could select 3.
And by declaring the emergency, we can do that. That allows us to do that.
Like Jimmy said, the emergency makes
It temporary, yeah. It starts it off, these repairs that we're focused on now. But we're not going to exclude permanent repairs because they are to follow. And if FEMA does come in along the way, we can keep going.
Dane, didn't you say that they were going to have to come back and award the bid either way?
Y'all are going to have to come back and award the bid anyway. A quick meeting to award the bid.
All right.
Got a motion.
So I got a motion. Do I got a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Resolution passes.
One other thing.
Yes.
Okay. You got the bid packet ready. The bid packet is ready except for inserting the scope of work, which we're going to have to discuss with some of y'all. Lance has got some ideas that he just mentioned that are really good, and actually a procedure I've used in the past on seawalls that I've worked on too that are great and save money. But we need to present that, and he can do that just briefly now, and then when we get the bid out and back and it's time to award the contract, if the mayor's still out of town and Council President Burrell's out of town, then whatever in the chain is going to have to be around to sign the contract.
Okay.
Okay. Right? Yeah. Okay.
Well, it's been a whirlwind all day, and, just your mind's turning, and I'm fairly good at networking. If I don't know, I can usually find somebody that thinks they know or usually does know. And I've talked to about 500,000 people today from Louisiana all the way to Florida. Our first initial repair for this, temporary repair for this, was the dry pilings in front of it. And going back looking at it, sometimes you do things that in a hurry and you don't think it through. And that was one of them. I probably didn't think it through. We still, if that wall's got to move, it's going to move 2 inches before it gets against the piling. And then the piling may flex. And by then, that wall is a possibility it can bust out and break the rods that's tying the cap together. So, that being said, the tiebacks that are there, they're 1.25 inch steel rod. If you get back far enough and get out of the air pocket, they become fairly good shape. We were proposing maybe taking a chain, which is 100, let me see, I had my specs on it, a grade 100 lift chain. And you'll go back to your tie back going back to your header or whatever it may be. We're going to find that out tomorrow. I can't tell you what's back there, but it's got to be tied to something. And we could weld that chain to that 1.25 inch rod. If we weld 8 links on it, we'll weld it to it. And then we'll take people call them different things, steamboat ratchets, as Dan call them. I call them binder ratchets. A marine grade, heavy duty barge binder ratchet. You weld to that chain. We can fabricate something to put that ratchet in between there and the loop that's coming out of the existing wall. And we can tighten that slack up at what that tie back would hold, or maybe even stronger in between. And we can stop it in place. So it wouldn't move anymore. Now, we cover the binders up, leave them in place, pour the concrete back over, and we move on with the project. And just, make plans. That way we can plan for a better fix, a long-term fix, later on. The kicker there is I can't assume anything. So I've got to go to that initial anchor point and look at it. what makes me feel better about this is once I do this, and once I go to binding on this thing, or, pulling them back too, if anything's failed, it's going to show, because I'm going to pull it out of whatever it's in. If it's bad further back, it's going to fail when I go to put the force on it. If anybody else has got a better idea, I'll definitely think about it. But as of right now, the pilings, we can't even get a Class 4 piling. There aren't any. With the rain and the timber company, they're out of pilings. A lot of them just went north to a tornado. The only ones we found were in Florida, and it's a Class 4 30-foot piling. It'd be 12 to 14-inch butt on it. So this material that I'm talking about is readily available. The contractor can grab it and do it fairly quick. There's going to be a little digging, there's going to be a little bit of mess, but I truly think that we can have it back for the 4th of July. Unless something comes up that's unforeseen, whatever it may be. But even if we had to dig all the way back and replace the whole tieback, I think it's better than putting the pilings in front of it.
I like the idea, Lance. My question is, like you said, once that tieback gets to where it's covered, it should be, not as corroded as where it is exposed. So, are we opening up something and possibly risking damaging the tieback? Why don't we, instead of trying to get the wall back in place with a ratchet, just take that chain and weld it to the tieback?
We're not going to try to move the wall.
And loop that chain through the eye that's in that wall cap.
We can double it.
And just put a buckle, tie the chain together.
We can. I mean, we can even double it. We could put the binder in it, put the force on the wall. We're not going to try to move it. That wall's not going to move. Right. And we could even take the tail of the chain and come back, and you got double there.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So, I mean, there's a bunch of different ways to do it, but my way of thinking is if I can keep that wall from moving anymore.
That's right.
Rather than take the chance of it having to move 2 to 3 inches before it actually impacts the pilings, I'd be better off.
Well, the other problem with the pilings is jetting down. Those sheets aren't 4 foot wide. You're going to put them every 4 foot by jetting them.
Well, it'd be Class 4 pilings.
Right, but you still, in the jetting, you may
right. We'd have to. That's right. We would have to put. It would take 30 some odd pilings. Is what I come up with. And being as we'd have to expedite them out of Florida quickly, and it would be somewhere in the $400 range a piling, and that's pretty steep.
The only question I have with this process is you're using the existing loops that are in the cap. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. That's our only option right now.
Could you core that cap?
No, sir.
But this is just temporary, so I mean,
right.
I know. The loop didn't fail.
My problem is, and again, I don't know.
I mean, we could.
You and I talked about.
There's endless possibilities. We could make a plate with a loop on it and bolt back all the way through that precast. But anytime I've ever dealt with precast in the past, once I drilled on that precast, I jeopardized the structure of the precast. Yeah. So I'm just trying to think of some way that I could take what I got.
Well, the one thing is, in
a quick way,
if it's not good, but when you start ratcheting, you'll break that loop.
That's right. Well, we'll see, and if we'll have to deal with that when we do it.
Option B or Plan B at that point.
Right. Most the loops have definitely got some corrosion on them. Even the rods that are in the cap that tie that whole thing together, where the concrete busted off. If you'll look at the rod, I mean, it's impeccable. There's nothing wrong with that rod. When it gets out to where it was in that airspace, you lose 1/8 of an inch all the way around from corrosion. But where that concrete busted off the cap, you can actually see the rod where it busted last night. That rod's perfect inside the concrete. So I'm hoping the further I get back, I can give y'all some more, ideas tomorrow. But as of right now, I'm going to have to dig and locate and move on forward with my investigation.
Thank you, Lance. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank y'all for your hard work.
We're going to put the bid out Monday or Tuesday. Monday. Tuesday we have a pre-bid meeting. Okay? A site survey. Non-mandatory. And we don't have to bid it out to everybody we select some, give it to them, say, give it back. And they're due, I think, Wednesday afternoon. That's it. I mean, this is quick. So that's how fast it's going. And I've got to get his specs, but I understand that, especially from what you two said, you want to modify his specs to not tension the wall and move it in any, but simply to maintain, just put enough stretch and tension on the wire to maintain, don't pull. Okay. Got that? He's got to get those specs.
I mean, we'll have to preload that loop.
Yeah, yeah, there'll be some, but,
Move that wall.
right,
I couldn't move it if I wanted to.
right. Okay, we're not going to leave it in that ultra-tight tension state. We're going to leave it where we haven't moved it. Okay. I'm just trying to I got to get the specs in here and get it on the street. Want to make sure I'm getting them like all heads nodding, everybody's in agreement. This is the way we're going to do it.
Yes.
Okay, good. The fewer the addenda we put out with this, the better off we are, because we just want to do it one time, out, in, done. Okay, thank you all.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
Anything else? All right, well, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion, we adjourn?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. Please adjourn.